I have one more important report I want to file on Christmas Day to the viewers and listeners of Infowars. And it's this. I want to talk about the federal system between the federal government and the states. And I want to break down the fact that it's under attack by the globalists. Now, globalists seek to get rid of sovereignty and then merge larger states into even bigger superstates and then transmit the power from the former federal governments to the international systems. But to further divide and conquer, they will also promote smaller secession movements within the former larger states that they are breaking up. This is classic divide and conquer. Now, before I address California and the headline from the Los Angeles Daily News, is California splitting away? Group believes California should form its own nation. Before I address that, let's address Texas. Why is Texas called the Lone Star State? Well, to break that down first, many people that drive through Texas notice that you'll see the Texas flag on many government buildings, but also on many private residences and businesses, flying at the same height as the U.S. flag. And sometimes people get confronted by folks saying, hey, you're not supposed to fly under federal law any state flag at the same level or higher. And that's true for New York or Hawaii or Alaska for that matter, but not for Texas. That's why it's called the Lone Star State, because Texas, by treaty, entered into the Union. It was not annexed or bought from another foreign power like the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon Bonaparte. No, Texas had defeated another corrupt, out-of-control empire, another nation, and had basically set up its own country independently in 1836. And so decades later, they peacefully entered into the Union by choice and by treaty, and under treaty are allowed to pull out of the Union if they ever wish to. Now, again, this deals with federalism, and the left wants to talk all day about how the federal government, decides all the final scores. Actually, it's divided the powers of the states, the federal government. And the federal government is supposed to oversee disputes, deal with the borders, the military, things like that. But when it gets outside of those powers, it has basically violated the rights of the states that are independent units. But out of those 50 independent units, Texas has the strongest rights. Some of the western states that were brought in as territories at first never really were granted full statehood. That's why you've got some states that are 87, 89% federal. That's because those states never have truly gained their independence from the federal government that ceased to be a federal government in the last 100 years and more has become a centralized imperial government. Now, even that imperial government of the United States government, the District of Columbia, has devolved, or you could say evolved, depending on how you view it, governmentally evolved into a large cog in the overall global corporate superstate that is known as the New World Order or globalism. Now, that said, enter California, 37 million people, 10 million of them probably illegal aliens. Many of them on welfare on top of their regular jobs. The state overall sucks more than any other state out of the federal coffers and pays less in per capita. It is a drain, simply put, on the rest of the other 49 states and, of course, protectorates and possessions like Puerto Rico and Guam. And if you look at the demographics in the state, it's only going downhill on what the average earner makes, what the average saver is doing. Wealth has been steadily, obviously, fleeing the state in the last 30 years. That's no secret. Hollywood, in its own words, is beginning to collapse, being made to be irrelevant. The Communist Chinese are in the process of buying up all 6 of the major production houses. Right now, you can see all the bizarre pro-Politburo, pro-Communist Chinese propaganda, and basically every movie you go see that they're able to write that into, like The Martian with Matt Damon, or films like Arrival. It's basically everything. Rogue One has tons of Communist Chinese propaganda in it. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's admitted. So part of me says just cut off the cancer. But if that's done, we've got to put a 30-foot security fence up, and because California will start sending its colonizers in to actually, again, just like it's done in Mexico, set up anchor baby operations. It'll be California anchor babies and start the colonization. And then we'll actually be one huge conquered United States of America, I guess, to be renamed California land, or the big foundations are pushing it, the Ford Foundation and Carnegie, to be Azadlan, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, and again, California. But even that's not enough now for Azadlan. I love everybody's trying to flee Mexico to make this Mexico, but it's all a big communist ideology. If you notice on the front page of the paper where they've got this article residing, is California splitting away? A group believes California should form its own nation. And you've got folks out there with their communist, red stars and fists in the air, and the whole thing's called Yes, Yes, California. And it goes on to say, Marcus Ruiz Evans of the Yes California Independence Campaign talks to passersby about California seceding from the United States and becoming its own nation because Trump has been elected, and how they think they've got the numbers and how they're opening cultural centers in other parts of the world. This is just truly sickening. Now they got a bunch of Democrats who are supporting it. Also, venture capitalist Tim Draper sought to split California into 6 states, which he said would be more responsive to local residents and easier to govern. A measure put in the 6-state concept before voters failed to gain enough signatures. Yeah, I'd be for breaking larger states if people vote for it into smaller ones, because the founders always liked the separation of powers. That'd be more of a libertarian model to then let the states compete with each other for lower taxes. It's kind of like Travis County's one of the fastest growing counties because it's a nice city and nice topography. But people are starting to move out of it to build south or north because of lower taxes and regulations. And the topography is just as nice. So, again, it's a complex issue. The point is that globalists are financing movements to break this country up. And so globalism is the annexation of the entire republic into a new political order that's completely authoritarian, tax-exempt, a diplomatic immunity above the law, the very definition of a tyranny, of a despotism. And so that's why globalism and the TPP and NAFTA and GATT and all this is so unconstitutional and is anathema to a free society. Trump is trying to re-annex the republic back into the system that our founders set up. And that's why the would-be conquerors of this country that thought they finally had us completely dominated with this last election, if Hillary would have gotten in, they would have sewed it up. 5 more Supreme Court justices, you name it. It'd have been pretty much game over without a physical war. And the globalists need to know that our military and others are fully aware of what's going on now because the message was put out there. Thank God you guys were so arrogant inside the globalist think tanks, you thought you were invincible. You had no idea what we were building, what we were doing. But I will assure you that our energy outmatches you 10 to 1. And the historical sexiness of Americana and freedom is something you're not going to be able to defeat no matter how soft you make the public. There'll always be a large minority of people of every race, color, and creed that want freedom who will outproduce, outperform, and will not comply with you and will, by just the very existence of our cultural prowess, be the hottest game in town. Pretty simple. You can't compete with us because you're anti-competition innately. So California is a bunch of sad losers. It's a beautiful state, a lot of great people. And, of course, their delusion to break away from the larger whole just shows what a cult they're in and how pathetic and butthurt they are and how untraveled they are and how stupid they are. And they don't realize they're a corporate renter colony, a bunch of ultra-rich that have set up a system where they're basically exempt from all the regulations and garbage they foist on the serfs below. But if you watch Mark Dice videos, we've had our own crew out there as well. Californians, on average, the young trendies, are the dumbest group of people you've ever seen, and they really are an example of what Victor Hugo, the French philosopher, said, that adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. These are spoiled, dangerous brats because they are for full tyranny against all of us if they think it secures us to continue for their meal ticket. So this is modern slavery. Of the giant unwashed masses being directed as a weapon system by the globalist above. Pressure from above, pressure from below, another form of the Hegelian dialectic or problem reaction solution. I'm Alan Schoen signing off for Infowars.com. If you're listening or watching this transmission, you know it's the truth. You know we're on the march, the empire's on the run. You are the resistance. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, see, I told you so, that communist Chinese-style net censorship was coming to the web, because it's already here. It's being announced. The way you keep the internet open and free is you get involved more than ever. Go to Infowars.com/app. A new battleship in the fight. Infowars Live, available right now. We're looking for a crew to man it. You gonna sit down and play games and be a trendy? Or are you gonna be part of history? Don't sit by and let the internet and free speech be stolen from you. Take action.